Well, hi there, everyone. My folks at the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage YouTube channel. I am bringing a video to you that I've been thinking about for quite a while, and I've been looking for ideas for videos where you might find some out there, but they're not as easy to find. I try not to make videos that are too much of a replication of others that are out there. But there's nothing wrong with that either. You can always get a different person's take or opinion on something. But I wanted to talk to you all today about foot pedals, why they matter, and particularly when you're dealing with vintage sewing machines, some of the pedals that you might find. And the vintage era, which I really need to do a separate video on explaining what I mean by vintage, and I'll do that because that's a whole nother topic. But for our purposes, we're going to be looking at two types of foot pedals. You might come across any of these with your vintage sewing machines. The foot pedals might be designed to go onto the floor only, or they might be designed to be used as a knee pedal or a knee lever for you to apply electricity and get power to your machine. And in some situations, you have the option of doing both. To continue on that point, I wanted to also mention that some sewing machines in the vintage era, they came with dedicated knee controllers. This is basically a power delivery device. It's like a foot pedal, but it never was designed to put your foot on it. This was attached to the table that my white rotary came in, the one that I've been recently making videos on. And it's about the right size if it had been a foot control box. But this box was bolted to the table for the white rotary, and it had a rather long lever here, and you could adjust the position. And of course, as you sewed, let me put it in a position which looks more natural. So if it's mounted in the table, you would you would press it with your knee, and this is how you would apply electricity to your machine. And so this one was not very flexible, but it certainly worked well, and it has to be inspected, and I have to decide if I'm going to keep it when I sell the white rotary. I might. It has a great cord. The cord's still in great shape. But then you also had foot pedals, such as the button-style pedal that Singer developed. This pedal, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in this video, but this pedal was very flexible. Singer was innovative, in spite of what some people say about Singer. I don't agree that they weren't an innovative company. They were conservative, but they created the button-style foot pedal, and it was designed to be flexible. You could use it on the floor as a foot pedal, and when you used the button style, you did not apply your foot down like you would the accelerator of a car. Any of you who've ever tried that, you may have been frustrated and you thought, what's wrong with the pedal? It's not working. It was designed with two spaces. There's a place to rest your foot, the outside of your foot, and then if you pretend this part of my hand is the ball of your foot, you would rest your foot there, and then you would turn your foot and you would apply pressure to the button. And that's how you would accelerate or decelerate the machine that you were using. And the principle behind this was to prevent ankle fatigue. Remember, people used to sew for long periods sometimes. And of course, Singer had other pedals. If you didn't want a button style, you could use that. But the other innovative thing about this pedal is that some of you, if you ever buy a vintage Singer machine and it is installed in a cabinet, as many of them are, you may look around and see a lever that looks not unlike the one, they're usually not quite as long, not unlike the one I showed you from the white power box with its knee lever. And you may wonder, well, gosh, where does that lever connect to? And instead of seeing a box, what you will see is this button-style foot pedal that Singer had provided a little bracket for inside the table. And if you ever look inside the table, you may be surprised to find the foot pedal sitting in the table. It's usually sitting to the side, and it will fit down into a bracket. And that bracket is very similar to the brackets you would see in the grass cloth carrying cases for a Singer 301. And it's usually brown or black in color. It's a metal bracket. It's bolted to the inside of the table. And the button style foot pedal will slide right down into that bracket. And then, of course, the lever that's in the Singer table would push against the button, and you would use it that way. And that was a pretty clever way to, it often would solve arguments because you had multiple people in a home using the same sewing machine. And some people preferred the knee lever, some people preferred the foot pedal. And this would solve a lot of arguments, and it would help Singer sell machines and tables. So that's something, if you ever go looking and you see a lever in a Singer table, but you don't see a pedal, you might think the pedal's missing. The person selling it to you may know nothing about the machine, and they may tell you, sorry, I don't have a pedal. Well, take a look inside the table, and in fact, your pedal may be in there waiting for you. It might have sat in that bracket its entire life. So if you try to get this pedal out of that bracket, it should pull straight up, but you may have to give a little elbow grease to get it out of there. And of course, you'll want to be careful of any cords that are attached to it. Those cords could be brittle, so you want to be careful there. Okay. Now, what I want to talk to you about today are the three primary pedal options that you have when you're dealing with a vintage sewing machine. Over on the far left, I have a pedal that it was bolted to the table that holds the little black necky BCJ, and many of you have seen this in some of my other videos when I was talking about vintage sewing machine brands and what makes an industrial machine. The Necky company would use this type of foot pedal, and you're seeing it upside down, so I'm going to turn it over. When you see these pedals, they often look like this. And if it was for foot pedal use, it would look like this, and you would apply your foot to this pedal. Let me put it in profile here. You'd apply your foot to the pedal just like an accelerator, and you would allow electricity to flow to your machine. Now, sometimes they would attach what looks like a shoehorn here, but it's really a metal lever that's attached to the pedal section where you would put your foot. If you're using it as a foot pedal, you would simply move this lever up out of your way, and your foot would come and it would press and apply electricity or electric power. But if this pedal was mounted, as this one was, into the cabinet of your sewing machine, you would have this lever and you could leave it stored up, but when you were ready to sew, you would swing it down and you would use it as a knee lever, and you'd press your knee against here, and of course it would press in on the pedal. And so other companies like the White Company also needed to address the issue of, okay, does the customer want the accelerator, if you will, on the floor, or do they want to use their knee? And they were trying to give customers multiple options. Now, the Singer button style and this was by the White Company, but this is a very common. Excuse me, I said White Company. This one used by Necky was not. This foot pedal was actually not manufactured by Necky. It was made like many of these electrical components, especially for European brands. They would ship the heads of the machine, the main body of the sewing machine, over, and then the distributor would retrofit or outfit, I should say, those machines with motors and foot pedals and cords that would meet U.S. or North American electricity specifications. Now, the one thing I'd like to do here, and I'll start with this one from the Necky, I wanted to give you a close-up view of what you're looking at here. So this particular style, and this is probably the most common foot pedal style from the vintage era, all of these first few pedals I'm showing you are what people will refer to as analog electric foot pedals. They'll call them electromechanical, and that's what they are. There is nothing digital about these pedals. There are no microprocessors, which you see today. There are no transistors. And the way this particular kind work, this is called a rheostat. And a rheostat is essentially a large block of porcelain, which you see this big white block here is made of porcelain. And wrapped around this block are electric coils. And these coils wrap around in a circuit. And when you turn on your machine, at that point, no electricity is flowing. And as soon as you apply the pedal, you will see a metal arm sweep across contact points. And I'm doing it slow so you can see what's happening here. So it starts at one end and it hits one. It starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 contact points. These contact points were originally brass. They still are, but several of those in the middle are quite corroded with just carbon buildup from age. Now, here's how this would work. When you sweep all the way across, and let's say you're sewing really fast, which people don't always do, that's rare, but let's say you're flooring it, right? And that machine is just sewing a mile a minute. What's happening is electricity is flowing through these coils, and it's flowing fairly quickly. And so this pedal is designed to get warm, and it gets warmer the more slowly you sew. So let's say I'm letting go of the accelerator. I'm just going to hold it here where I'm having really slow needle movement. When you do that, you are asking this device to hold back a lot of the electricity that you have access to in the power source in your house. Holding that electricity back is part of this device's job. And because of that, these little coils will glow red. And it's not unlike how your toaster works when you turn it on. And this sweeping action allows, you'll notice as the arm comes across and makes contact with these major, they look like brass grommets, as it comes across, it extends the flow of electricity to all of the coils. And now again, the machine is moving really quickly. It's sewing very fast. But as we reduce that, and we come back down and we want to sew more slowly, we are now asking those first few coils to handle the electric current. And that's why these devices get warm. And it's one of the reasons they used porcelain. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is an example. I opened this up. I took this off of the Necki table, and I opened up the back. This particular one had a screw that went right here, and I was able to actually remove it fairly easily. Some of them you have to get them slid. You have to get the base of them slid off, and that's kind of another thing to. That's a whole nother video, really. But I wanted you to see how a rheostat works, because now you can understand why I'm going to say the following. One of the most important things you can ever do for a foot pedal is to be kind to it. Be gentle to your foot pedals. Be good to them. Don't drop them. If you drop any of these old style foot pedals, the most immediate thing that can happen is, well, there's several things. The porcelain can be cracked and broken, just like a dish, just like a porcelain plate. And if it cracks, it's not going to function well, and you're going to need to stop using the foot pedal. Don't even try to use it, because it's not going to be structurally sound to use with electricity. Now, the other thing that can happen is that these coils can become damaged. I once had one of these, and when I opened it up, I noticed one of the coils had broken. Now, this thing has been around since 1950. This 1950-51 is how old this thing is. And it was still running when I purchased it, but I'm not going to continue using this. I don't see any broken coils here, which is really incredible. It speaks to the quality that was used when these things were made. Those coils are stretched like springs. They're not springs, they're specific coils. These are not broken, but if you ever have one of these and one of the coils is broken, do not use it. It is no longer functional. And I don't know if any of you can see this, but if you look at the very end of this lever, it should have sort of a rectangular edge. And right now, I don't know if you can see this, but it's got some serious metal erosion, and I believe it was used so much that it's literally worn away. The heat from the electricity has burned the metal and literally singed it off, because if I take the end of, here's the end of one of my screwdrivers. This is just a classic tapered screwdriver. The end of the lever that you see me moving across this this rheostat, it should have that same solid rectangular end that the screwdriver does. But look at it. Look at this thing. Let me see if I can get it to where you can see the contrast. And maybe you can see right there. Look at that. Look how much metal is missing on the end. This device has really reached the end of its lifespan. The other thing I noticed in the neckies, these foot pedals often have a short plug. This is the male end, and then it plugs into a female cord receptacle, which is then wired up to the motor of the necky. Now that little necky it's had its motor and cord replaced in the past, and its cord is fine. I've inspected it, but if you look here, let me show you. Take a look. Now this was sitting underneath the table. You really couldn't tell. In fact, I had to sort of take a look at it before I could really get a sense of what was going on with it. Now, what you're seeing essentially is, it's a little hard to see because it's black. But what I'm seeing here is that the insulation on one side of this cord has failed. Now the other side seems to be okay, but that's just at a cursory glance. So my feeling is that if I were going to keep this foot pedal, if I were going to try to keep using it, I would need to replace this cord. And I would have to, if you look on the underside here, you'll see where the cord is. Let's get some light here so you guys can see this. You can see where the cord comes in, and then it's actually screwed into the main unit here. But again, in order to reuse this, I don't see anything functionally wrong with the coils, but because the lever is so worn, my big concern here is that this thing is not gonna operate optimally. And it had the same owner, the lady's in her late 80s, early 90s. She had it all her life. And if it did change, she may not have even noticed it because it would have been very gradual. This is erosion of the metal lever. So this is an example of one of these that I would not use. Now, other machines have rheostats and they are in great shape. So there's nothing wrong with having a rheostat per se, but this one has reached the end of its useful life. Could I use it? Yes. Am I going to? No. I'm going to replace it. Now, believe it or not, you can get brand new reproduction replacements of rheostat foot pedals. You sure can. They're not very expensive. And I have to decide as I go through the necky restoration, I'm either going to replace it with one like this, and yes, you can get them with and without the little knee lever extension. I'm either going to do that, or I may replace it with an electronic pedal, but of course I'll have to adapt that pedal to either keep it for use on the floor, or I can even adapt an electronic pedal as a knee pedal. That's a little project, and I'll make a video on that when I've fully fleshed that out. But I wanted you to see this, and I will also show you, wanted to show you a rheostat pedal that is in excellent shape. This is the original foot pedal that came to one of my 1960s white zigzag machines, and it says, as many of these will say, but there were different companies, this says Mercury Electric. Again, the machine's head, the main body of the machine was made in Japan, but this says made in USA. At the time the machine was made, the Japanese had not yet started making electrical supplies that met North American specs for how our electric system works. So, but Mercury also made things like electric motors, and there were other companies that did this. But this rheostat foot pedal works the same. Now, it did not come with an extension to use as a knee lever, but you could certainly attach one. That's why that hole is there. And this particular model is one that has and I'll try to zoom in here and let you see this. This one has a slide mechanism. So in other words, if I want to take the bottom off of this to get to the inside, I have to take, if you see where my thumb is on the base, and then I have to take the body and slide it off. It kind of slides on there, and then it's crimped with steel on the side, and I would have to take a screwdriver and uncrimp it. I've done that before with these, but this one is in remarkable shape. The other thing to mention to you, and this is super important, remember what I said, remember that I said these devices get warm, and they are designed to get warm, not super hot where you can't touch them, but they are designed to get warm because they hold back heat. They cool themselves, not with a fan, but by convection, right? Just natural air current is how they cool off. You'll notice it has holes in the side here. The old Necky one had vents on the side. The other important thing to note, because the bottom plate of the Necky, which is still on the Necky table, has feet underneath it, as does this newer, well, I say newer, from the 60s. Notice it has feet on the bottom. The feet are not just there to prevent scratching of the bottom plate. They're very important because there are vent holes here as well. And when this foot pedal sits on the floor or up against the wall of a sewing table, it needs to have space for air to get under it to help cool it. So if you ever have one of these pedals and either the feet are gone, they may have been ripped off. Usually they've simply dry rotted. These are in remarkable shape. It almost looks new. But if they have gone away, there needs to be a replacement put on. And there are things you can do. That's even another project, another video. There are things you can do. You can take rubber washers and glue them to the base if you need to. But the point is, you never want to use this flat. And that is why when you sew with any vintage foot pedal that is not electronic, it's extremely important that you place the foot pedal, if it's on the floor, you put it on hard, solid surface flooring, such as wood or tile. You do not want to use these on carpet or rugs. If you do that, then you may find that you could really damage your carpet. I mean, seriously, you will be really unhappy if you harm your carpet. And you can also overheat this because remember, it needs to breathe. It needs to air itself to get rid of the heat that's building up. And so that's my point. In fact, you can see I'm sitting it on the fabric here, and even that is not, the fabric is taking too much of the airspace. Now, let's say you sew in a room where you have carpet, and maybe that's your only option, or maybe there's a big rug in there or something. That's not a problem, but you need something solid to put between that carpet and rug and your foot pedal. You could use anything from a cutting board to any solid board surface that is heavy enough to stay put while you're putting your foot pedal on there and sewing would be fine. And you don't have to leave it there. Just remember that all of these pedals really, really need to be able to cool themselves. They don't have fancy electronic fans, and that's fine. They work beautifully as long as you're not putting them on carpet or rugs. And in the time of these vintage machines, most people did not have wall-to-wall carpet. That doesn't really come in until late 60s, early 70s, when a lot of North American homes start to put carpet all over the place. So anyway, this is the first installment, guys. I wanted to show you a video on Rheostat foot pedals. I introduced the video with a variety here. And next up, I'm going to talk to you about the Singer button style pedals. And I'll talk to you about how they work and what my thoughts are in terms of restoring them, because they are they're pretty remarkable for what they are and when they were made. And so stay tuned for the next video. But this video is on Rheostat vintage sewing machine foot pedals. What an exciting topic, huh? But very important. Remember, these foot pedals, whether it's a foot or a knee pedal, guys, these things control the amount or the flow of electricity from your power source to your sewing machine. So they're a big deal. Treat them with respect and take care of them. And if they're not functioning properly, you want to stop sewing immediately until you've gotten this problem fixed. This may not, sound like something important, but it is actually very important. And after I do the next video on button style foot pedals, I'm going to follow up with electronic foot pedals, and I'll talk about the pros and cons of those and how you can use a modern electronic foot pedal on your vintage sewing machine. You have lots of options here. But anyway, Rheostat pedals are the first option. You want to make sure that yours is in good shape. The neck is going to get replaced. You might have a vintage Rheostat pedal. It's in good shape and you can keep using it, no big deal. You can also replace your vintage Rheostat with a new reproduction Rheostat with or without knee pedal extensions like the one I showed you on the Necky. I hope this was helpful, folks. I've been thinking about this video for a while, and I really thought it was important to show you. I really wanted to show you, what your options are and how important this issue is. And so it's definitely something to contemplate when you have a vintage machine, whether you've had it all your life or whether you just got one or you're just getting interested in them. Anyway, subscribe to the channel if you like. And if you click the little bell symbol, then it will let you know when I've updated a new video. And I hope to get these other videos up soon. And hopefully that will, I'll have at least 3, if not more, of my sewing machine foot pedal series. Yet another series for you guys. Take care.